It rained my first full day in Madrid, compliments of London, and I didn't leave my Airbnb, just slept and slept. On my second full day, Madrid felt much more like itself. Sunny, warm, bright, and light. It was a more appropriate time to venture out. I had an order of operations for getting set up in the city. Find a reliable cafe with Wi-Fi, wander around the streets to reacquaint myself with their spoken wheel layout, and revisit some iconic landmarks in that order. So many good puppies! The Spanish lifestyle agrees with me. I might be biased from the fact that wine is cheaper than water in some places, but overall, coming from the head-down, power-walking intensity of London, there was a palpable difference in the way Madrid tackles its daily rhythms. It's still a major economic center, and I was living in the center of that center, so it wasn't a leisurely pace of life. But everyone just seemed less intense about it. People had to get where they were going, but pausing to glance into a bookshop on the way would not be out of character. Whereas I feel in London, that would have felt more like an indulgence, unless of course your destination was the bookshop. I got accustomed to a later start to my day, a later lunch hour, and later evenings. Madrid is not a blank slate city for me. It's pre-populated with baggage. In this extended visit, in addition to being a time of recuperation after my master's degree, it was also a bit of a reclamation project. Being able to stay for multiple months in Madrid, I saw as an opportunity to fill the city and myself with many kinds of memories, good and neutral and less harmful kinds of bad, that would help crowd out the memories I preferred to stop stumbling over unintentionally. There's a strangeness that comes with traveling to a place associated with trauma, but I think the impulse to return is a good one. Whether a simple exposure therapy or something deeper, I think the value is in making the permanence of bad memories less potent. Even though what happened in the past won't ever change, you've changed, and the place has changed, and that helps you overwrite the data on your internal hard drive. It's less about forgetting and more about refusing to forsake an entire city in my case, because of a series of unfortunate events. It ended up being very fortunate for me that Madrid is not short on uplifting experiences. To encounter something that puts you in a brighter mood, you really need look no further than the food. Oh my god, the food. Spanish cuisine, of course, has a lot going for it, but Madrid is a culinary capital in its own right. It carries its weight. You see fusion, you see avant-garde, you see traditional. Whatever you want to eat, most likely you'll find an opportunity to do so. As with any city where one spends enough time, I began to find my places. Coffee shops with the best pastries and the most generous laptop policies like Café Comercial, and bookstores that made me mourn my limited luggage space. I also began to latch onto little things that would become staples of my time there. Vermouth became my drink of the trip for its universal availability and its low price point, alongside Café Bonbons, which did nothing for my dental health, but they were profoundly satisfying for my sweet tooth when the weather turned cold. Madrid is a regal European capital, and it looks the part. Especially as an American, there's a great deal of romanticism that comes with living around architecture like this. It lends such grandeur to the day-to-day routines of coffee runs and work meetings when you look out the window and you see this monument, or you walk down the street and you see that palace. Like, what? There were so many instances of my needing to just come to a complete standstill and be like, this is my life. I get to be here for all intents and purposes. I get to live here. My time here inflated my main character syndrome to an unhealthy extent, I'm not going to lie. Madrid, of course, has its less than visually charming parts, but the sheer ratio of pretty to non-pretty, at least in the center where I spend most of my time, bowled me over.
Soy yo, Anastasia.
One facet of long-term travel that I think is challenging for a lot of people is the fact that you run into the indisputable evidence of all of your idiosyncrasies and anxieties and past and present and future worries coming with you. I think on shorter trips where you go for a few days or a week or even 2 weeks, you can kind of leave real life behind, and that's the main point of traveling, is to escape real life. But when you travel for months at a time, there is no escaping. Real life does catch up with you. The romanticism of travel kind of loses its luster when you're someplace for a long period of time. You get to learn the good, the bad, the ugly, you know? And so I think overall my time in Madrid was educational. This was not my first time doing long-term travel, but it was a time in which I was in a personally kind of weird space mentally. But at the same time, I would rather be in a weird space mentally in Madrid than anywhere else, right? So at the end of the day, my time there was meaningful, and it was beautiful, and it was hard, and it was weird, but it was living.
Adoro la Gran Vía y Chamberí, las cavas altas y bajas siempre amé. Me gustan todos los barrios de Madrid y mucho más que todos lavapiés.